challenges faced by leaders on the global stage vary from region to region, but there are some commonalities as well. So if I touch on the commonalities first, it's very much some of the areas covered in my presentation, such as achievement drive, action orientation, commerciality, analytical thinking, positivity are strengths that leaders show. In terms of areas of development, there's a lot of weaknesses that we found around interpersonal and relationship and influencing across boundaries, intellectual flexibility, wider strategic thinking, self-awareness, inclusive leadership, and empathy with others. Now, those are general, but then different cultures show up with very different patterns of strengths and weaknesses. So Americans are typically positive, action-oriented, very results-focused, but they can tend to engage the world, we found in our data, with not as much intellectual flexibility, not as much empathy, and their positivity can sometimes land as inauthenticity and airbrushing away of problems. Europeans can be much more flexible and actually show pretty strong strengths in allowing autonomy, but they can sometimes not look under the surface of what's going on in a culture. They can also be a little bit slow around change compared to Americans, and a little bit slow to embrace issues or take risk, etc. So European leaders can be seen to be a little leaden-footed. Leaders from emerging markets can be highly commercial, highly driven, quite people-oriented in their leadership sort of styles, but they struggle sometimes with inclusive leadership and giving people real autonomy and allowing initiative. They struggle around self-awareness and actually strategic thinking in some parts of the world. But then even the emerging markets are different. China, India, Middle East, Sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America in our data shows up quite differently. The main skills, if you take the world as being interconnected, I think are around relationship building across boundaries. There's no substitute for helping people accelerate into developing relationships across global companies and fast when they engage different environments. I think agility is really, really important because a connected world means things move around, information moves around, trends move around, and people used to talk about change management. That's the new normal. There's constant chaos and change, so you really need that sense of sort of agility, and you need empathy and respect, I think, for other cultures. If you don't have that, you're not going to build the tolerance of diversity and the different approaches. And Western leaders have to question some aspects of their default settings and recognize the strengths that other cultures have. Well, there's a variety of sort of interventions. I think when we're talking about globalization, there's no substitute for experience. You can't just, we can have a go at developing skills, people before they go out, but actually you've got to expose them to difference. You've got to mentor them. You've got to give them experiences that stretch them with respect to intellectual agility, empathizing, getting underneath the surface. And we often find that when leaders are moved around the world, they're not given sufficient support and coaching. Quite often when leaders from emerging markets are brought here or to American companies, they struggle, and it can be the death knell of their career, in fact, because they're not supported. They're put into an alien environment and not given the support. So development, supporting and coaching, but managed experience, I think, where people aren't just left to sink are some of the important things. What I think will define the new era of work, with respect to the themes that I'm talking about, is I hope over time we see the rise of genuine multinationals with real multinational cultures, with diverse teams that are valuing the best that leadership strengths of different cultures, that are really sensitive to nuance but are clear about their values. And at the moment, I think we have companies that purporting to be multinationals, but their culture is firmly rooted in their domestic environment. And they show strengths, but they also show weaknesses. And actually, the future belongs to some companies that can genuinely step forward and develop a kind of multinational leadership mindset.